How to run a marathon in 4 hours or less. So, hey, runners, do you want to finish your next marathon in under 4 hours? You're in the right place. So, I'm Dr. Peralta, physical therapist and run coach. And today I'm breaking down exactly what it takes to run a sub 4 hour marathon, including training, pacing, fueling, and how to avoid the biggest mistakes most runners make while chasing that goal. If you're serious in leveling up your running game, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. So, most people complete marathons anywhere from 5, 6, even some people taking 7 hours to complete. And just completing one is a big accomplishment for sure. The thing is, you can even walk part of that amount of time, that distance. You could walk the marathon and still finish around 5, 6 hour mark, even if you walk good portions of the marathon. But sub 4, that's next level. It means holding a 9:09 per minute mile per pace or faster for the 26.2 mile runs. No shortcuts. Yes, you can do a run walk strategy for that, but for the most part, that run walk will still average like a 9:09 or less to finish under sub 4. So if you're looking, that means you're looking at VO2 max, if you're not familiar with volume of oxygen consumption, which is like an indicator of your aerobic fitness, around 30 to 32 milliliters per kilograms. That means milliliters of oxygen per kilograms per minute for women in their 40s. That's solidly in the good to above average aerobic fitness range. So marathon running, if you didn't know, is an aerobic sport. 99% of it, the energy for aerobic is from through oxygen delivery, right, heart and lungs. So if you're running sub 4, you're not just faster, you're efficient with your aerobic work capacity, right, your aerobic metabolism. And this separates casual runners from those just chasing, it separates the hobbyists, people who just kind of dabble and like, hey, I'll just run a marathon just to finish it, while those who are really trying to chase performance, right? You want to be the best marathon runner you can be, right? One of the first thresholds is, can you hit a sub 4 marathon? It requires discipline, structure, and strategy. So are you ready to run sub 4? So this guy's for experienced runners running at least 4 times a week, or ambitious first timers who are tired of being told just to finish, right? Now, if you're completely out of shape and you're brand new to running, or like you're intimidated by sub 4, then yes, there's other guides out there for you, for people who just want to finish and they're okay if they do a 5 or 6 hour marathon, or they don't really care about the time at all. That's a different story. But I'm talking to the competitive runner who has like a competitive spirit, who wants to do more than just finish the marathon. They want to finish and do the best they can be for themselves. So they're going to push themselves and think, hey, let's do that sub 4, especially if you haven't achieved that before. So minimum baseline, at least 3 to 4 days of running per week, with 1 to 2 days of cross training. And when I mean cross training, I'm not saying any random workouts. I'm saying aerobic cross training. Think about bike, rowing, swimming, elliptical, other things that will build up your aerobic fitness. This is different than strength training, meaning people sometimes confuse strength training as cross training. No, strength training is its own separate category. When I mean cross training, is mean that it directly improves the attributes of running, which would be aerobic capacity. So you need at least 3 quality runs a week. So for running workouts, I recommend 1 speed or track workout per week, 1 tempo run, and 1 long run. And then if you're not going to do 5 days a week, it should be an 80-20 rule. That means 80% of your runs should be easy, 20% should be hard, right? So if you're doing 5 days a week, I mean 4 days will be more in the easy category. And hint, for the long run, it's also going to be at an easy pace, unless you're purposely training. We'll talk about this later, how you can incorporate marathon paces doing your long run. But as a general rule, the long runs are also at the easy intensity. So again, it should be 80% easy, 20% hard. It's called the 80-20 rule. You could use heart rate, pace, or RP to track your effort. And if you're dealing with reoccurring injuries, aches and pains and strains, or constant fatigue or illness, adjust your goal, right? Also, work with a physical therapist if you're dealing with pain or injury. You shouldn't be running on, especially if the pain's more than like a 5 out of 10 pain. It's not going away on its own with rest. Work with a physical therapist. Ideally, someone who works with runners, hint, someone like myself. Also adjust your goal, right? If you can't find that you're constantly feeling sick and tired, sub 4 requires proper health. You shouldn't feel burnt out. So if you're always, dragging, your legs feel dead, adjust your goal. Maybe the sub 4 isn't for you at this time. Next, endurance. So there are 4 pillars to training, right? So you want to build up your aerobic endurance, right? That aerobic capacity. The long run is going to be key for this. It's going to improve your aerobic capacity, your mitochondria, your running efficiency, what's called running economy. It's typically this type of long run workout. It's usually done once a week, usually done on the weekends, especially if you work a traditional 9 to 5 job, right? You're working Monday to Friday. Sometimes it's hard to fit in a 2 or 3 hour long run workout. So it's typically done like on a Saturday or a Sunday. Some people like to do it on a Saturday, so that way they could rest on Sunday, let their legs recover, so they're not having to go walk into work with, heavy dead legs. The peak long run, it's going to taper up. You might start with your long run being 10 miles and then gradually work up to 16, 18, or even 20 miles on the long run, depending on your preference. But most sub-4 marathoners I find can get by with either a 16 and 18-mile long run. They don't really have to do the whole 26.2-mile long run as a long run, because that might be too fatiguing and take them too long to recover. Leave the 26.2 mile for the marathon race itself. You could also consider doing marathon pace segments in weeks 8 through 14, assuming you're doing a 16-week training block, right? So if you're doing a 16-week training block at weeks 8 to 14, you could do marathon pace segments during the long run. That means at certain portions of your long run, you may include marathon pace. So for example, the last 5K of a long run, you may do marathon pace. For the last 10K of your long run, you'll do marathon pace. So again, marathon pace for a sub 4-hour marathoner would be about that 9:09 minute per mile or faster. So speed, you also want to do structured sessions, right? So track intervals. I'm a big fan of finding a track, but even if you don't have access to a track, this could be done on a road, just like get a watch or something, know the distance you're running. For example, quarter mile, half mile repeats, 1 mile repeats. One of my favorite workouts I've planned for my marathoners is doing 3 to 5 repeats at a 1 mile repeat at about a 7:30 pace. Again, but you could also do quarter mile repeats, which would be a repeat 400 meters or repeat 800 meters on a track as well. This could also be done on a treadmill. And you could also do this for time, for example, doing 5-minute intervals with 1 minute rest, and then repeating that for a certain amount of sets, or for time, for example, for 20 or 30 minutes. You also want to do tempo runs to build up your lactate threshold. Lactate threshold is your body's ability to process lactate and tolerate that lactate buildup in the body, so it becomes more efficient at training at the faster paces. So for example, lactate threshold pace for someone who's doing a sub 4 is usually about an 8 minute per mile pace. And then you typically do this for anywhere from like a 30 to 45 minute workout, at least once a week. You can also do this as part of like a fartlek style tempo run workout. So you might, really run hard segments from like lamppost to lamppost, or from street sign to street sign, or treat it like do it on a trail for certain landmarks. So you can mix up your tempo run with a fartlek run as well. And then recovery. So you obviously want to recover between your workouts. You don't want to be running on dead legs. Again, follow the 80-20 intensity rule. That means 80% of your runs should be easy, 20% should be hard. Include rest weeks or deloads every third or fourth week, and limit your mileage increase to less than 30% in any 2-week training cycle or 2-week period. Easy runs plus sleep and hydration equal gains. And sometimes easy runs are still too much impact on your body. So you actually want to do the cross training. This is why I talked about cross training. For running, which should be things that build up your aerobic capacity. Think of other endurance sports. Again, swimming, biking, rowing, elliptical. So instead of doing easy runs, you may do 3 of those quality run workouts we talked about before. But then 2 of the other days will be cross training, easy cross training workouts, like an easy bike, or an easy swim, or an easy rowing session. And then you can mix up the duration, maybe do an easy bike for 30 minutes, just to help give your legs a break and still get your heart and lungs an aerobic benefit. And then strength training, its own separate category. It's very important. You should do at least 2 strength workouts a week. Think about free weights, machines, bands, kettlebells, dumbbells, or you could do challenging body weight variations. Again, the key mistake a lot of runners make with strength training is that they do stuff that's too easy, right? They do air squats when they should have been doing split squats or using weights with their squats, right? Because you should be fatiguing around 8 to 12 repetition max. If you're not fatigued at all, right, you do a strength workout and the muscle's not fatigued, then you're not doing proper strength training. You might as well be doing like a group workout class. And this is the problem with a lot of group workout classes, where you could do like a body pump class at in a group fitness class at a gym, is that it's more like a type of cardio workout, and it could be used kind of like a tempo workout because it does improve your fitness, but it's different than a classical strength workout where you're looking to build maximum strength. So you're looking at more of a kind of lactate threshold thing where your muscles are burning, which is, again, has its own benefits, kind of like CrossFit or spin classes. Now you could do CrossFit or spin classes, but they should be considered as kind of like a hard style workout, but not a classical strength workout. And I don't recommend doing them on a regular basis. Maybe once every 2 weeks or so if you like it for a variety, or if you want to substitute the tempo run for like a spin class or the tempo run for a CrossFit class, that's okay. Because it is going to build up your metabolism for like lactate, your body's ability to process lactate kind of build up, and that's where CrossFit and spin classes would come in. However, that being said, don't make the mistake of doing a bunch of CrossFit workouts during the week, then giving yourself dead legs or being overly tired. Or don't confuse CrossFit for just pure strength training. Again, those are different attributes. If you're going to do strength training, I recommend doing classic strength training 2 times a week, full body, single set to fatigue. And strength training also boosts running economy by up to 8%, which means you're going to be more efficient. So you're going to improve your ability to run faster for longer, especially ideal if you're trying to run a sub 4-hour marathon. And next, nutrition and fueling. This is very important. What you eat matters, right? A lot of times people think, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to go to a fast food store, McDonald's, Burger King, and eat whatever the heck I want. Now, you can eat those junk foods in moderation, right? But it shouldn't make up the bulk of your diet. Same thing like 80-20 for when it comes to running. 80% of your diet should be whole foods and nutritious, and 20% can be junk foods or whatever, especially if you're already a healthy weight. But if you're overweight, definitely think about eliminating junk foods from your diet altogether, because you should try to aim for a healthy weight, because that has its other health consequences. But let's just go back to the topic of the sub 4-hour marathon. Assuming you're already a healthy weight, you want to eat at least 3 to 4 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. So if you're a 150-pound runner, that's about 450 to 600 grams of carbohydrates per day. Protein is also important because it helps the building block to help you recover between workouts. People think it's just for strength athletes, right, for bodybuilders, but protein is also important for endurance athletes. Aim for 0.65 to 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. So that's for a 150-pound runner, that's anywhere from 100 to 150 grams of protein per day. Hydration. Drink on a daily basis at least 3 to 4 liters of water per day. And if you're someone who sweats a lot or you're not getting enough sodium in your diet, you may even have to add mineral sea salt to get some electrolytes in your diet so you retain the fluids and able to use the fluids properly. And during your long runs, so if you're any run that's usually over an hour, so if you're doing a workout that's over an hour, think about hydrating with electrolytes. So you could get these electrolyte powders or drink coconut water. You could do these natural solutions. Typically, you want to get 30 to 60 grams of carbs for any workout that's more than an hour. All right, so if you're doing, for example, a 15K workout, or you're doing a long run workout that's taking you like 2 hours, so every hour of that 2-hour workout, then you'd have the 30, 60 grams carbs, or especially during the race as well, and then 300 to 600 milligrams of sodium. And then a note, special thing on carbs, sometimes if you're a heavy sweater or maybe you're a larger athlete, right, you may even need 75 or even 90 grams of carbs per hour. So you may split it up, right? So each little gel packet, if you're doing gel packs, for example, usually about 20 grams of carbs per gel packet. So you might need like 3 gel packets to get 60 grams of carb in an hour, right? So if you're doing a 3-hour long run, right, so you're looking at 9 gel packets, right? And then if you're doing the marathon, of course, 4 hours, that'd be 9, 10, 11, anywhere from 10 to 12 gel packets there for a 4-hour marathon. And then fluids, right? You want to drink at least 16 to 24 ounces of fluid per hour. And again, don't gulp it down. Don't wait for the hour just to gulp down 16 ounces of fluid. You should be taking small sips of your water, whether you're drinking a water bottle or you're grabbing cups. When you're doing your long runs, you should be practicing your fueling strategy. So don't wait till race day. Practice it on your long runs as well. And you bring your water bottle, your hydration with you, your gel packets, your chews, if you're doing whole foods, whatever you prefer to get your carbs from. Practice it during your long runs, during your training runs, so you're not waiting for race day. And then with the fluids, again, you want to sip every 15 to 30 minutes or so. Sip your fluids, or every 15 to 20 minutes. Sip your fluids. Maybe have a little bit of the carbohydrate gel, but don't just gulp everything down just in an hour, and then next hour gulp everything down. And then your body is not going to be able to keep up with it, and it might cause stomach issues like stomach cramping and issues with bloating and things where you have to run to the porta potty. So practice, again, your fueling strategy during training. Don't just wait for race day. Common mistake. So the 16-week blueprint. So how do you do a 16-week sub-4 plan? There's different flows out there in block training that I like, but typically you're going to break it up into blocks, right? So a block is usually about 3 to 4 weeks. So a base building block, weeks 1 to 4, where it's easy mileage, you build up your aerobic fitness. Maybe you start doing just 3 runs a week with some cross training. And then you have a build phase, this second block of training, where now you start adding tempo, interval workouts, and the long runs start to get longer in distance. Maybe you're about 10 to 12 mile long run, but now you're doing like 14-mile long run, 60-mile long run. And then peak, this is where you start increasing the highest volume, and this is where you maybe see your longest run, long run. Maybe you go from that 12-mile long run, now you're going from 16, then to 18-mile long run, right? This is where you peak at the longest long run. And then the taper, usually 2 weeks before the race day. This is where you pull back. You still keep some speed workouts, but you decrease the volume significantly to allow your legs to recover, be fresh, and then be ready game time for your marathon race day so you could hit that sub 4-hour marathon. And recovery weeks after your marathon, you just want to recover at least a week or two after the race so you can recover, allow your body to recharge. And if you plan to do another race, then you could do another build up to another race. So sample training week, Monday may be an easy run. Tuesday may be track intervals plus strength training. Wednesday might be a rest day, or you might do cross training on the bike or a rower, or you may go for a swim. Thursday may be a tempo run workout. Friday, an easy run, or you may rest again. Saturday may be the long run, which again, I like Saturday as the long run because it allows your legs to recover on Sunday, so you don't have to go on. Some people do long runs on Sunday, but then they find that going to work on Monday, especially if your jobs, you're on your feet and you're moving around on your feet, then your legs are overly fatigued, they don't get to recover. So I like to do Sunday instead, do either strength training or rest, or do walking or cross training like swimming, which is like, minimal or low impact on the body. Right, maybe you go out to a swimming pool and go swim on a Sunday. And then next, so how do we execute the race day strategy? So when it comes to race day itself, when it comes to that marathon day, you're trying to do that sub 4-hour marathon, how do we do the race itself? You break it up into chunks, right? And, focus, dig deep. So there's different pacing strategies. Option one is even pacing. That means you try to run each mile as close as possible to the 909 minute per mile pace from start to finish. This is a popular strategy. It prevents early burnout because you're not going too fast at the beginning, and avoids needing to try to force yourself to go faster later in the race. However, it has some drawbacks. If you're not good with pacing, you may end up going too fast in the very beginning. So you have to be very disciplined to stick to around that pace throughout the entire race distance. Option two, the strong finish strategy. This is where you break it up into, I've heard some experts call the 10-10-10 rule. That means the first 10 miles, you run about anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds per mile slower than goal pace, or even be 30 seconds per mile slower than goal pace. Stay patient and calm on the first 10 miles, right? So you're going slower than your marathon race pace. Next 10 miles, you lock in at marathon goal pace. For in this case, you'd lock in at that 909 minute per mile pace for the next 10 miles. And then the final 10K, right? The final 10K, you give everything you got. You pass those fading runners, you go faster than marathon race pace. Now you're going to like tempo run pace or like speed pace, right? You're going faster than your race pace. You use the crowd and you empty out the tank. You really let it burn in the last 10K there. And this method helps conserve energy early on and sets you up for a strong, confident finish. And then option three, which a lot of elite athletes use, is negative split strategy. You have to be focused and disciplined. For what is a negative split? So the first half, you run, again, about anywhere from 10, 15, or even 30 seconds per mile slower than race pace. But then the second half, you pick up the race pace or go even slightly faster for the second half of the marathon. So essentially, you're breaking the marathon into two half marathons. The first half marathon slower, the second half marathon faster or even faster than race pace. So this strategy works if you're disciplined and feel confident closing hard under fatigue. It's what elites often use, but requires excellent pacing control, right? You really got to know your pace. And so sometimes even the watch may throw you off a bit, or the crowds may throw you off. You really have to be in tune with your body. So whichever strategy you choose, practice it in your training long runs, right? Practice your pacing strategy in your long runs so you're not just willing to try something new on race day. So gear checklist, make sure your watch is charged, right? Your race shoes, you already tried them on. You're not just waiting till race day to try out a new pair of race shoes. You use any anti-chafing sticks or gels, right? Especially if you're prone to chafing around your chest or your legs. You have your fueling, your carbohydrates, your gels, your chews, your snacks, your hydration, your water, or where the fluid stations are on the race day. So you have a proper hydration strategy as well. Any throwaway layers, let's say if it's a cold race, right, you have layers that you're ready to throw away. right? And also that leading up to the race, you're making sure your nutrition's on point, so you're properly fueled and you're not kind of like starving yourself going into the race. Remember, aerobic running or marathon running is an aerobic sport which relies primarily on carbohydrates for fuel. So make sure you're getting enough carbs, and then during the race you have enough carbs with you. Again, in gels, chews, snacks, etc. Morning of, eat at least 2 to 3 hours before, and then maybe even consider having another snack like an hour before the race. Hydrate early, arrive with time to spare so you're not stressed out, stay warm, induce dynamic warm ups, keep your body warm. And mental tip, when you hit the wall around mile 20, if you hit the wall, if you're fueling properly, you shouldn't hit the wall. Oftentimes people hit the wall around mile 20. It's called bonking because you're not eating enough carbs. So make sure you're eating enough carbs. And then hydrating, make sure you have enough fluids properly that agree with your stomach so you don't hit the wall or bonk where your legs just feel like bricks. That way you could avoid that. But if you, let's say you happen to do, try to break it down into smaller chunks, repeat a mantra, visualize the finish line. If you need be, walk. There's no shame. If you hit the wall, there's no shame in just walking to regain your composure, regain your energy again. You may have to walk for a few minutes and then get back to running. So troubleshooting, right? What if I miss a week? Don't panic. It's right. You can adjust a plan. Let's say you got sick for a week and you had to adjust. It happens. That's life. Don't panic. Don't try to make up for the missing mileage. Just go back onto the next scheduled training week. Should I drop your goal? If you're missing like a full month or so, right? Because let's say you got severely impacted or injured, then yes, you may have to modify your goal. Maybe you just worry about just finishing the race versus trying to do a sub 4 hour marathon. That may happen if you have to miss a whole month or two of training. And what if you plateau? So as strides, again, check your fueling, get more sleep, right? And be honest about your training week, right? Whether you're getting enough sleep, were you doing the quality workouts, right? Were you doing the speed workouts? Were you doing tempo runs? And if you're an overweight runner, consider getting to a healthy weight. Oftentimes, people get into a marathon runner and they're just overweight and they're not able to hit the sub 4 hour pace just because they're carrying too much extra body fat on them. Just consider leaning up. And if this is you, you may have to do like an additional month or two just to help you lean up a little bit. Again, you don't have to be super thin, but if you're overweight, you consider going to a healthier weight category, and that will oftentimes help you correct to get to that sub 4 hour marathon pace. So sub 4 isn't just about running harder, it's about running smarter. Consistency beats perfection. Build smart, train strong, and show up ready. And if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with your running friends, and subscribe for more running tips like this. And if you're looking for help with your run training, I drop a free training here. Check it out.